Good morning, good life. You're listening to Detail Therapy, episode 81 with Natalie Ellis from BossBabe.
She's an award-winning YouTuber and best-selling author obsessed with helping you go after the life you want.
I like it.
Join her as she seeks out the stories and strategies
Give me every little detail
of extraordinary people who found success.
I'm going to get emotional. Oh my God.
Welcome to Detail Therapy with Amy Landino.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think that's the case for a lot of entrepreneurs. Not every entrepreneur hears the word entrepreneur is like, yep, that's me. But they might have a passion in something completely different that, again, is in their bones. And then, they can't find that perfect fit. They can't find that outlet anywhere else. And so they just decide, okay, I'm going to go do it. But I think we all inherently have that thing that we know we really want to be doing.
You just heard a little bit of my conversation with our guest today, Natalie Ellis. In this episode, we'll be discussing the details about women and entrepreneurship. What should you be watching for if you're thinking about starting a business? Also, the challenges that hold us back when we are working for ourselves and trying to stay focused, and how to combat those challenges, and how to look at competition differently so that it can empower you into a collaboration mindset. This is such a good chat today. I'm so excited to share how I met Natalie and how we kind of came together to do this podcast. It's just a great episode, especially if you're thinking about going into business or you are in business and trying to continue to improve. But before we get into it, for those of you who are new to the show, my name is Amy Landino and I will be your host. You can think of me as your number one productive lifestyle and success coach. I'm the founder of Gatlu House, a resource dedicated to helping you go after the life you want. And in addition to this podcast, we produce the award-winning YouTube series Amy TV, of which I am also the host. I've authored a couple of best-selling books, including Good Morning, Good Life, which is now available on Amazon. Links to everything I talked about will be in the show notes, and those show notes are at our new home base on the internet, detailtherapy.online. That's right, just type detailtherapy.online in your browser and it'll take you right to our show notes for every episode of Detail Therapy. Okay, first, I want to dive into a little bit of love that we have received in the Apple Podcast Store, because I just love reading from people who are listening and genuinely trying to let other people know what they think of this show. And I always say, I want your true and honest review. And today I want to give a shout out to Emily Marie. Emily Marie was so sweet, gave us 5 stars and said, helping me go after the life I want. She said, I discovered Amy TV on January 1st, 2015, when it was still called Savvy Sexy Social, and have been following her on all platforms ever since. In the last 5 years, I have learned so much and have become a different woman. That young lady was in college, while the woman I am today is a new mom who's trying to Gatlu. There's so much more here. I hope you guys will go read it. And if you do, please pop over there and share your true and honest review of what you think of this podcast. It really helps us a lot to make sure that we're delivering for people who are searching around for new ideas and new content. So thank you, Emily Marie. I would love to send you a copy of Good Morning, Good Life. So if you can send an email with your deets to hello@detailspodcast.com, that would be great. We'll get back to you and get that sent your way. All right, let's not waste any more time and get right into the goods. I'd like to introduce you to Natalie Ellis. Natalie Ellis is one of the creators and strategists behind BossBabe, the fastest growing online community of ambitious women. With a global online community of more than 2 million members, its mission is to inspire and support female entrepreneurs to turn their dreams into a reality through building successful businesses. Natalie is also the voice behind the BossBabe podcast with co-founder Danielle Canty, where the two share a behind-the-scenes look at building a successful business and finding balance in daily life. Let's get into it with Natalie Ellis. Natalie Ellis, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Natalie, why do you do what you do?
I do what I do because I really believe that helping women build wealth and independence can really change the world.
I need everyone to sit in that right now because, and I'm not saying that we get all different, we get really good answers to this all the time, but it is so amazing when you hear somebody that has so much clarity around there's so many details of what you do, but that is the biggest benefit to not only why you do what you do, but why people interact with you. It's just so nice to hear that so succinctly and profoundly put.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't always that clear. And I think probably a lot of people can relate to that. For a long time, I had lots of different whys, but I think being in it for a while and doing your own work helps you understand what that deeper why is, why you do what you do.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I feel like you and I are aligned in a lot of our work in terms of how much you just really got to understand why people do what they do, why they think what they think, and how people tick. And so that you can resonate with them to help them reach their goals, to help them get to that point. So at first, I want to say we met in person for the first time probably 8 months ago or so on a brand deal out in Santa Barbara. It was like such a fun way to just be around like-minded women and hear what they were doing and also be there to advocate for a brand. But it was just like so cool getting to meet you because I've heard of BossBabe on Instagram. It's at bossbabe.inc, 2.3 million Instagram followers there. You're doing so much great work to just put it out there in a platform people are in and love to scroll all day long, how they can, what we around here say, go after the lives that they want. How did you get into this? I know you have a co-founder. How did this all get started where you were so purposeful in helping people, or specifically women, with this really still touchy subject that we also try to break ground on here, financial? What does it look like to go after wealth? What got that whole thing started?
So I guess for me, it started when I was really young. I didn't grow up with a lot of wealth at all. And in fact, my childhood, there was a lot of trauma. And my mum was in a relationship with a lot of domestic abuse. And what I didn't realize at the time, but I obviously had paid attention to, is she didn't leave that relationship because she didn't have financial independence. And she was kind of stuck in this relationship, or what she thought was stuck in this relationship. And kind of where I grew up, to be honest, that kind of thing was very popular, very common. And that I obviously paid attention to that at a young age. And I actually moved out of home in with my grandparents when I was 13. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm never going to put myself in a position where I don't have financial independence. So from a really young age, I knew that it was important. But with that being said, it's not the easiest thing always to create. So it kind of came from that. And I've always had this big ambition and big drive to want to create something. I've always been really entrepreneurial and like that cliche entrepreneur that was always trying to sell stuff from a young age. But I didn't really know what that looked like for me. And so growing up, I had different companies where I'd build websites, I'd do design, all those things. And then I went to university and I studied business management. And when I first got there, I remember getting so excited to go to uni and being like, oh my God, I'm going to be surrounded by so many other people like me that are obsessed with entrepreneurship. And I remember getting there and there were not so many people obsessed with entrepreneurship. In fact, a lot of people in business school were there because they wanted to get consulting jobs and were really there to get on the corporate ladder. But for me, it just didn't feel super aligned. So I ended up going to the careers center inside the university and said, okay, I want to start something where I can bring entrepreneurs together. And they were like, great, go ahead, we'll help you. And so I remember working on this for ages, and we had our first event and we had, this university of thousands of people. We had 7 people come and say, I'm interested in entrepreneurship. And they were from all different kinds of degree backgrounds, engineering, biology, very, very different mix of people. And so I started to kind of get used to meeting different entrepreneurs and started to grow this little entrepreneurship club, which actually became one of the biggest in the country after I'd been there for a few years. So I knew that I was passionate about it, and I still didn't have an idea. So all of the work I'd done with the Entrepreneurship Society and different extracurriculars that I'd done, I actually got given an amazing job offer, which was like the dream job offer for someone in business school at the time. It was consulting with one of the big four. It was a bonus that would have paid off my entire student debt, which I had quite a lot of, and it would have helped me move down to London. I'm from very north in England. And I said yes because that's what I was supposed to do, or what I felt I was supposed to do. And as the deadline kind of got closer, as I was closer to approaching graduation, all of my friends were like, this is amazing. You're so lucky to have this offer. You don't even need to worry about anything. We've all got to go search for jobs. Yet I didn't feel that happiness that a lot of my friends would have. And so I kind of made this commitment to myself. Okay, if you can just get any idea with legs and get it off the ground, just try something. That's the best thing you can do, is take action and try something. It's how anything in the past had ever worked out for me. So I kind of made that commitment to myself. But as I was approaching, meant to be starting this job right after summer, I still didn't have any kind of idea. I'd kind of played with different things. And the one that was closest to something I might do was a health food company. I was really into supplements, health food at the time. Like at the time in the UK, a few years ago, putting powders in your smoothie in the morning was not as normal as it is now.
Right.
Like right now, people put all kinds of powders in their smoothie. Back then, they didn't. It wasn't that normal. But I'd seen this happening. I was very much on social. I was seeing this kind of stuff. I'm like, that kind of feels aligned. I could probably go ahead and do something like that. So I called up this graduate job and I said, can you just give me a year? I want to take some time off for a year and then I'll come work for you. And they were really gracious. They said, yep. So I went away and I thought, okay, it's just going to take a few months to get this off the ground. I can try and bring in revenue. And as long as I can really sustain myself with revenue from this business, then I can stick to this entrepreneurship route and kind of see what it means for me. But it actually took me over a year to get this business off the ground. I had to then make the decision to not go to the graduate job, even though I was barely making any money. I still hadn't got this business off the ground. I was just freelancing. But one thing that I was doing while I was trying to get the business off the ground, between sending supplements back and forth to factories and lab manufacturers and all these things that I found out about from Google, was I was building an Instagram account in the background, which was a health-focused Instagram account. And so when we actually did end up launching, I say we, I mean I, when I ended up launching, I launched to over 60 countries within a few months, and we were then contacted and asked to be in over 200 stores in the UK. We were in Boots, the equivalent of Walgreens in the US, and all of this came from Instagram. So on one hand, I had this knowledge in Instagram, and on the other hand, I was so incredibly lonely. I was back at home because I couldn't afford anything else. No one around me understood what I was doing. I just felt really lonely, and I was sick of just Googling everything. Like I just felt like there has to be a quicker way. There has to be something else out there. And so that's kind of how I started pairing the two things that I love so much together, is entrepreneurship and social media. And so it kind of just all stemmed from there. And eventually I decided I didn't want to keep going with the health food company. It's a very different ballgame to have a physical product versus an online business. And I kind of realized that the first time I sold a recipe book and I wasn't having to ship and manage fulfillment and all those things. And I started getting introduced to the online world. So the journey started there and it really developed. And I just was really passionate about solving loneliness for entrepreneurs, especially female entrepreneurs. I just feel like for me, I was so ambitious and so driven, but I didn't know that many people around me that were, especially people that wanted to have their own business. So it really came back from that, and everything that we do at BossBabe comes back to that. It's how can we make entrepreneurship less lonely, and how can we help people achieve success a bit faster?
That was a really, really good overview. And there's like one thing that's just in the back of my mind the entire time, especially as you get to this part where I've been in business for myself for over a decade now, so I can relate. And last week was a prime example of like one of the very few anxiety attacks I've had and feeling of loneliness and things like that. But it happens and loneliness happens. And the thing that was in my head was, what did you come into contact with in your life, in your journey so early on that you knew entrepreneurship was an option? Because I find it really it makes a lot of sense to me that there weren't that many people that showed up to that first event that you did. It's almost like they go to school for business to go down a consulting route because many of us have just decided, oh, we have to do the thing that everyone's telling us is the right thing to do. So we're trying to follow that path. We're so sure that this is what we're supposed to do and it'll be fine. We have a twinge, that's going, you don't love this. This isn't really the thing, but you're too afraid to explore it. What I find the most fascinating is I feel like you're one of those people that just knew in your bones early on about entrepreneurship. So I don't know if it's like something happened where you were exposed to business ownership somehow, or you saw it in action, or maybe there's just something about entrepreneurship and the values of an entrepreneur that you were turned on by, and then you ultimately said no to that job. I mean, what do you think it is that drew you in that direction?
So I definitely do, like you said, I do feel like I have it in my bones. It's always been this thing, and I was doing it before I knew what the word for it was. So, for example, I was building websites and designing things and selling them to people when I was about 13, and I didn't know that was entrepreneurship. I just thought, oh, I've been learning this skill, I could make money from it, and so it was very natural to me. But when I was about 14, we had this careers day at high school, and I remember it so vividly. We had so many different guests come in and speak, policemen, physical therapists, nurses, so many different professions. And I didn't really relate to many of them. And there was this one woman, she was the last woman who came in and spoke on Careers Day. So she walks in, she had heels on, she had this amazing handbag, she sits it down, and she starts talking, and she opened up the conversation with, I used to be really successful in my job, and then I got divorced, and I was sitting on the stairs drinking wine, crying. Immediately my head went to my mum. That's what I was very used to seeing my mum doing. And so I instantly felt like I could relate to this woman, like, oh, interesting. Well, how did you get out of that position?
Yeah.
And she then started talking about how she had to figure it out. She had to figure out how she was going to be able to pay her bills, how she was going to have flexible childcare, things like that. And she decided to create an events company. And she told us, I'm an entrepreneur. I created my own events company and scaled it to be one of the most successful in the UK. And she started telling that story. And I finally, in that session, had a word to describe how I'd been feeling and the things that I'd been doing. And as soon as she said that word entrepreneur, I was like, yep, that's me. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to be my own boss. Because I didn't really know what it was before that.
That's it right there. Because sometimes you just kind of have to see what you think your best self looks like someday. And also a realistic version of that, being able to hear from somebody the tragedy that came out of some of the biggest moments of our life, or the hard or the crappy thing. I tell the story about running my first half marathon in the book, Good Morning, Good Life. And at the end, nobody was at the finish line. It was a big miscommunication. There were supposed to be people at the finish line, but it's this culmination of events where you go, wow, what if I got used to the fact that someone's not always going to be cheering for me every single time I get to a point? And then you have these aha moments that make you level up. And it's something like that career day, and the fact that it was just natural to you to kind of create something and sell it. And the biggest thing is that what is natural to you, not necessarily saying, how do I become an entrepreneur? More, what feels natural to me? And then how do you quantify it into something by understanding what the market is and exactly like where they would like it to be, or how they would like it, or how it would solve a problem for them.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think that's the case for a lot of entrepreneurs. Not every entrepreneur hears the word entrepreneur is like, yep, that's me. But they might have a passion in something completely different that, again, is in their bones. And then, they can't find that perfect fit. They can't find that outlet anywhere else. And so they just decide, okay, I'm going to go do it. But I think we all inherently have that thing that we know we really want to be doing.
So in your experience with working with women entrepreneurs, and I really called them out because I think whether you're almost there because you're leaning into something that's natural to you and you want to start a business, or you've already done it and you're sort of just working your way through. Natalie, in your experience, what have been those like biggest initial challenges for women when they're starting their own ventures? What's getting in their way?
So there's two things that I see over and over. It's the exact same two things. The first one is confidence. I see women lacking so much confidence. They have imposter syndrome, or they are comparing. They think they can't do something, or they're not smart enough for something, like I see that confidence issue all the time, even if it's not conscious, it's often very subconscious. And the second thing is action. I see a lot of women not taking action, not taking those bold moves and steps. And a lot of it can be rooted in confidence. It can be rooted in that self-sabotage. But I'm a big believer that if you just focus on putting one foot in front of the other every single day, you will get progress. But if you just sit there getting paralyzed by all the things that you could be or should be doing and not doing any of them, it holds you back. And then it really reinforces that you're not good enough or you're not smart enough because you're not actually getting results because you're not taking action. So I see those two things as a real vicious cycle.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think it's amazing to me what happens with confidence. It's like the chicken and egg situation. I mean, if you do just a little bit more action on a regular basis and start practicing what it looks like to do something, even if it's not even classified as bold yet, but you do get to that bold state, then how can you then pick up a little confidence on the way there? Do you think how much of this is hindered by feeling like you don't have the right support system around you?
I think it is a little bit, but I think it can also be an excuse. So there's a lot of people that don't have a lot of support around them and still manage to create success. So I think it can be something that you can struggle with if no one's supporting you or people are telling you it's a bad idea. Yes, it can hold you back up, but at some point you have to be prepared not to listen to that advice and just do it anyway. Because I am a big believer that a lot of these things are excuses. There are so many different reasons that you shouldn't have your own business. There are so many different reasons that you shouldn't be asking for that raise, right? We can always find something. But the taking action, the confidence piece, I don't think it often has a lot to do with the people around you. I think it can have a lot to do with the conditioning from the people around you. But the minute you find another way, the minute you pick up that book or listen to that podcast or watch that video, and your mindset starts to shift and expands to what is possible and what else exists, I think then it's on you to continue looking for that and learn what it looks like to maybe minimize the voices that are unsupportive. Brendan Burchard talks about a lot of people expect the people around them to be their biggest support system or biggest cheerleader. And actually that expectation really doesn't serve you because your partner, for example, they might not like the risk that the entrepreneur life gives them. They might not like that. They might not be drawn to it. And so it might not be natural for them to really cheer you on and celebrate this because it might be something within them that actually makes them scared or gives them anxiety. So if you're constantly expecting that as your kind of approval or something, then it's really going to hold you back. And so it's about finding people that can be around you and can support you, even if it in the beginning isn't your partner or your family or your friends. And at some point you might decide, you know what, I don't really want to be friends with those people anymore. And that's absolutely fine. I think we go through those stages at all points, but it's really on you to then go out there and find different people who are like you, who are going to support you, who you can support. And there are so many communities out there like that. You have one yourself. There are so many communities that exist because there was such a need for it. So I think, like you said, like you asked, I think partly it's an excuse, and also it's just people need to know that another way exists and then begin to pave that way for themselves.
Let's take just a second to say thanks to the sponsor of this episode of Detail Therapy, and that is our friends at Athletic Greens, the all-in-one daily drink to support better health and peak performance. Even with a balanced diet, it's difficult to cover all those bases. This is why I love Athletic Greens so much. I just go to my refrigerator, get a scoop of Athletic Greens, throw it in with some water into a water bottle, shake it up, and get my nutrients for the day. It's developed with a complex blend of 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced ingredients, and it's a green powder engineered to help fill those nutritional gaps in your diet. So maybe if you're not good at getting this stuff in on a daily basis, or you're like me and you're just trying to do whatever you can to survive that quarantine diet that you had, this is going to be an amazing option for you. One of the best things about this is that one of the things I do for myself health-wise is take a multivitamin, and I have a series of vitamins that I take, and the Athletic Greens concoction, this little water bottle, this green drink, is great for upgrading that daily multivitamin. It just sort of takes it the extra mile, really make sure you're getting the most benefits. I also feel so much more energy when I have this drink. And sometimes if you just want something really light in the morning and you don't want to eat like a breakfast or anything like that, and you just have a drink like Athletic Greens, this is so good because it's kind of actually delicious. It's not like you're drinking vegetables at all, and it's not too heavy to kind of get your day started. So that for me always improves my focus and my mindset by not having too much to eat, but still having something very nutrient rich. And that is what I love about Athletic Greens. This is a highly absorbable powder, and it's diet friendly whether you eat keto or paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, all in a drink with less than 1 gram of sugar, and it tastes great. So whether you're looking to boost energy levels or support your immune system, both of which are very, very, very important when you're in business for yourself and you've got to pay the bills and you've got to make sure you stay at it and stay high energy, I want you to check out athleticgreens.com/detail-therapy. There you can claim my very special offer for this audience only of 20 free daily travel packs with your first purchase. That is a $79 added value. So again, head over to athleticgreens.com/detail therapy. Link will also be in the show notes. All right, let's get back to our chat with Natalie Ellis. I totally agree. I think what's really interesting about this is, you might not want to leave your significant other to do this thing. You may not want to disown your mom because they're not telling you the right thing. But sometimes I also think we don't communicate in the way that we need as well. And we don't have the willingness to say we need to be served by someone else while also making a tough decision. I guess the point that I'm trying to get at is we oftentimes will go to somebody and say how excited we are about something, and we are opening up a conversation that a person that is being talked to might be thinking, oh, well, they want me to react to this in some way. They want my thoughts on this. And those thoughts, you should never expect to be supportive. You shouldn't have a whole lot of expectations in general. But then if they come back and it's not supportive, then it feels like it's tearing you down. I mean, I had to, I don't know if you've ever had to do something for the sake of your entrepreneurship like this, Natalie, but I had to go to my ex and say, hey, I'm starting a business. We've been together for 3 years. It would really be smart if I just got rid of my apartment. And we've been together, so I'm going to move in with you. If that's not okay, I understand. I was willing to end it at that point because that to me was a sign that it was not a thing and I needed to focus and I didn't have time for that distraction as it was. But you can have a easier conversation than that by just saying, hey, I need to tell you something about what's becoming really important to me, and it's a risky journey, but I think it's worth it and I'm willing to do the work. And I think that opens up a totally different conversation with somebody that you care about who's going to be on this journey with you. Would you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. And then it gives that person a chance to really understand why you're doing it and then air their feelings too. If you make it a really safe, open space and they can say, okay, this idea really gives me anxiety. I'm really worried about this. And you can have that conversation around finances or goals and whatever it is that's going to make that other person feel more comfortable too. So I think you're totally right. Having those conversations are really important. And there might be, people in your life that just don't understand what you do. Like my parents, they have no idea really. And I'm just okay with that. I talk to them about so many other things than work. And I think it's okay to have those relationships too. It doesn't mean they care any less about you. It just means that they don't fully understand what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. How often do you feel like you're entertaining the conversation around the word saturation? In other words, oh, I would do it. I would try. I'm thinking about this, but it's so saturated, whether it's being a content creator or some other industry product or service. How often are you dealing with that sort of a conversation with your clients, with your communities? And what's your response to that?
Quite a lot, actually, which I'm guessing you get the same. I get a lot of people come to me and say, I want to be in this space, but there's so many people doing it, or I want to be an influencer, but there already are so many different influencers out there. And there's two parts to it. I think absolutely in the beginning, if we take Instagram, for example, when Instagram first launched, if you were early to that platform, it was a hell of a lot easier to become an influencer than it is now. That's just correct.
Yes.
On other platforms, I think it still differs. But say, for instance, Instagram. At the same time, there are new influencers popping up every single day who become way more popular than the influencers that existed years ago. So it's a big contradiction to that argument. With the idea of saturation, I think it comes down to smart research. If you're just going to go out there and be a carbon copy of many other people that exist, then perhaps it is a little bit too saturated and you would struggle to really stand out. Whereas if you do the work to understand who it is that you're going to be serving, or what it is that your brand is, how it's uniquely slightly different. It's not about going in and finding this really deep niche, but instead, okay, this is my personality, this is how I'm going to differentiate myself, this is what my brand is going to look like, then I really think there is space. And often when you go into that conversation around there's so much saturation, you're often thinking a little bit too big before even focusing on the granular. So thinking about, well, it's going to take me forever to get 100,000 followers or 1 million followers, and thinking in that way, I think really hinders progress. Versus if you're wanting to start out doing something, let's keep using the influencer one for an example, and you're thinking the market's saturated, well, why not just focus on getting your first 5,000 incredibly dedicated followers or subscribers, people that really care about what you're sharing, and then focus on the next 5,000 and really get to know your community and be led by your community. What do they like about you that you're doing? What are they interested in that you're sharing? Okay, can you do more of that? And I think a lot of that can be applied to many different industries, many different careers. For a lot of people that are not fully sure what their brand is or even what they want to do, what their purpose is, I think following different opportunities and listening and taking the leap and moving forward one step in front of the other helps you get big results. And it's very much the same with the saturation question. And I think there is a lot of power in doing really good competitor research. I really, really like to do research around pricing, naming, benefits, transformations, deliverables. Anytime I'm going to create something new, I do a ton of competitor research because it's really important to understand what else exists out there. And often, if it already does exist, it's a nod to, okay, there's actually demand for that. People are wanting that, because it might seem really glamorous and fancy to be doing something that no one else has ever done and the market's completely new and unsaturated. But what you don't realize is you have to educate your buyer to actually to get the demand. You have to educate your buyer to say, oh, I'm doing this brand new thing. Here's what it is. Here's how it works. Versus going into an industry that already exists and people are already buying, and then putting your flag in the sand and saying, hey, I'm doing this too, and here's why I stand out.
Yeah, there's so much there to think about for sure. And I think the other thing about competitive research is it's not just like looking at the competition out there. It's also looking at the potential collaboration opportunity. And somebody that might on the surface look like, oh, I'm jealous, they've got this going on, I'm so far off, I'll get there at some point. Loved your point about, who are your true fans? Like, who is that first initial base? But also, like, where can you find commonalities with other creators and find ways to align with them? It's not the same as I'm going to try to rip off their stuff. It's saying I'm going to reach out to them and tell them I really like what they're doing and see if there's anything I can do to support them. And as you grow, those opportunities to support them will probably come into their mind a little bit more easily, but you can always get creative and come up with different ways. And collaboration, when done well, because now, again, saturated market, it's not what it used to be. Collaboration, when done well, is a great way to continue to grow. And also, you're networking, you're meeting people that are continue to connect you to opportunities. The number of times I've been offered a speaking engagement or a brand deal or something because someone said, hey, I can't do it, but I suggested you. That comes from just being a good person, growing a community that's truly your own, and making an impact and meeting people. So, love
Yeah. I mean, I just want to say I totally agree with that. I'm a big fan of collaboration and partnership. It's why I have a business partner. And I think that's one of the hidden like hidden gems in business is being able to partner up with people who have a really similar mission or similar audience base, because you can make double the impact. You can get out there faster. You can help more people. I think it's such a great way of growing a business. And even in, early stages, I teach this a lot within my communities, but joint venture partnerships, these are often really, really good ways. If you have no audience yourself, but you have an amazing product, you could go team up with someone that's built an audience but doesn't have a product. There are so many ways that you can take partnership to capitalize on everyone's strengths involved.
Absolutely. Love that. But before I move, I want to get to a couple details about your day. Before I do that, I want to ask you something, as you brought up your partner, just maybe a quick idea of, everyone's different. Everyone has different ideas. Everybody has different mood swings. Everybody has different good days versus bad days. What is maybe just like something that you guys always do, the two of you, to try to stay in lockstep as much as you can? It's obviously not something that's perfect, and it's a relationship just like anything else. You're in your own kind of marriage with a co-founder. But what do you guys do to try to stay balanced with each other?
So we speak every single day, probably throughout the entire day. We talk. She lives really close to me. She actually moved over from the UK to move into my neighborhood because so we could be that much closer. Her and her husband actually moved over, which is amazing.
Wow.
So we speak every single day. We see each other, I would say, at least 5 times a week. So we have that really, really open communication. We update each other on everything. But the main thing is that we don't ever let anything fester. So if we ever are a little bit annoyed with each other, or we are confused by something the other person's done, or we're feeling a certain way, we say it, we speak up. We do not ever let things go on. Like, people are going to annoy each other. It's just normal. And especially in a business partnership, it's just like a romantic partnership in the sense of how close you are. And so someone might say something to you that really pisses you off. And instead of storming away and not talking to them for days, you actually just tell them and you say, hey, this really upset me. I'm feeling upset because of this. You talk it out and you get over it. And that has been such a big thing for us. We've never had a fight. We've never went a day without talking. And it really has served our relationship.
Love that. Great, great. Just great advice, because I know that that's such a powerful decision to make, because like you said, you can cover so much more territory. You have your own strengths. So the ability to lift the business and the brand up is huge, but don't get in your own way. Just make sure everybody's heard. Natalie, couple details about your day. What is your morning routine like?
So my morning routine used to be really bougie, and I had all of these steps until quarantine hit. And then I really simplified it. So in a morning, it generally looks like I wake up, I have hot lemon water. I sometimes put a bit of chlorophyll in there. And then I do red light. So I just kind of wake up really slowly with red light. I have a Juve red light. And then I come downstairs and I either journal or I read my Kindle for about 30 minutes. I absolutely love reading. I'll make breakfast, which is sometimes a smoothie or oats, whatever I'm feeling like. Then I go up, get showered, get ready. I normally listen to a podcast while I'm getting ready, spend time with my husband. And then just before I start my day, I come down. We have our own planner at BossBabe, so I go through the same steps every single day. So I do 3 things I'm grateful for, and I generally try and make them preemptive gratitude. So I'm really grateful for this happening today, or I'm really grateful for a calm, peaceful day, whatever it is that I'm trying to set the intention for that day. Then I set 3 top goals, so 3 things that I want to get done that day. I list out any kind of to-dos that are top of my mind, and then I dive in with work.
Okay, I have to ask, what is the big benefit of the red light?
So I don't fully know, honestly, but
I love that. Sometimes we just do something because it feels good, and that's okay.
Yeah, so what I do know is that it helps boost progesterone, which is the hormone that we make that helps us feel calm, balanced. It really stabilizes mood. And so for me, I actually have something called PCOS, so polycystic ovarian syndrome, where I can get really low progesterone. And so it really helps boost my progesterone. I've noticed a big difference. And it's meant to be good for skin, collagen. inflammation, all of those things. I don't fully know all about that. I mainly do it for the progesterone.
No, I love that because I just want to make sure that we link to it and maybe put it on our Shine Squad Secrets Instagram page because I just love a good extra bougie thing to add to my morning routine. So I'm definitely going to check that out. What do you do to stay active? Do you have like a favorite workout regimen? I see you doing this on your stories a lot, especially during, I think, quarantine. I think you had some workout buddies that you guys were kind of keeping each other going.
Yeah, so my business partner, Danielle, her husband, Greg, he trains me, Danielle, and my husband, which is amazing.
Oh my gosh.
We turned my full garage into this biohacking den. So I've got an infrared sauna, I've got a full gym, all the things. So I do strength training 3 times a week. I try not to do HIIT or anything. It just generally doesn't make me feel good. So I don't like doing things that don't make me feel good. So I do strength 3 times a week, and that will be anywhere between like 30 to 45 minutes. And then other than that, I take walks every single day, which I love. I love putting a podcast on or just going out without my phone and just walking around the neighborhood. I've really, really got into that during quarantine. And then at the weekend, I'll do like a hike or something.
What are the resources that kind of guide you through your day? Are you like a digital calendar person? Are you just a task list? I know you said you make your list of 3 things. Like, where does this live? Where do you tend to easily pay the most attention for these things to keep you on track?
Yeah, so I created my own planner. It's called the BossBabe Planner. So I use that in the morning. So that's kind of the paper version. So I'm a big fan of written notes and written planner. So I actually made this planner, which is a planner and a notebook in one, because I often would write notes of a meeting I had and then wouldn't be able to find those notes. So I have the note pages for that specific day. So I use that. And then I also use my Google Calendar. I really swear by my Google Calendar, and I have that synced on my phone as well. I color coordinate it all so that I can just at a glance know what my day is looking like. I use Asana. I think Asana is amazing for managing yourself and your whole team. Confession, I actually have an Asana board for me and my husband because I like
oh my gosh, that's amazing. I'm still trying to get I'm trying to get my husband on Trello, and he's just like, no. I'm like, okay, we'll keep using the notes app. That's fine.
I just love it. I like create this team Asana. I put our goals in there, and every now and then I go in and just give us a status update. I'm a Capricorn. He's a Virgo, so it kind of works. We're both a little bit ridiculous with organization.
I love that so much. And I can totally relate to the color-coded calendar too. That's great.
Oh, it's everything. So yeah, I use Asana. Then I also use Slack and Google Drive so that I have Google Drive everywhere on my phone. And then finally, I use Evernote. So if I'm ever taking notes, I use Evernote on my laptop and on my phone. So I have those notes everywhere too.
And your planner is so gorgeous. You were so sweet. After we met last year, you sent me one in the mail, and I definitely was in there just planning my little life away for a little while. It was so cute and so sweet. So thank you. I totally recommend it. It's funny how we each have like our own way of designing a planner because of what our preferences are. I totally get what you're saying. We're losing meeting notes because you're like, well, what day was the meeting? If I could just link it to that day, then it makes sense for those notes to be there. And there you have it. So I will definitely make sure there's a link to that so everybody can check it out.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's the thing as entrepreneurs. We're always just, okay, I really want this. It doesn't exist. I'm just going to go create
Right.
it.
I guess that's been natural to you for a long time.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So I just want to sort of wrap up, but I have a final question for you, as I always do. But in a few minutes after the final question, if you are okay with it, I'd like to challenge you to the secret show. Are you up for that?
I'm up for it.
You guys can find out about the secret show and find out what Natalie had to say in Shine Squad over at patreon.com/AmyTV. Before that, what does it mean to you to go after the life you want?
To me, it means taking really aligned action every single day.
Beautiful. Natalie, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, let's catch the deets on this conversation with Natalie. First of all, what comes natural to you? It's not always the question of how do we become an entrepreneur. Natalie and I had different ways of coming into entrepreneurship, but we also had different things that occurred to us, and it was all about what came natural. So rather than trying to come into the conversation from one direction, what is another way that you can think about it that has more to do with what you love to do, what you feel like you're amazing at, or something that actually just interests you and you would want to continue continue to improve upon. If that is something that brings you joy and propels you and motivates you, that is probably the thing that's going to help you find your way into entrepreneurship. Next, communication is key to everything. So whether you're balancing a relationship like Natalie with a co-founder, or also like Natalie and myself, where you just have to always inform your family and have balance with your significant other of what it means when you're going after the life you want and standing for that, but also showing up for it so people can rely on you. Communication is so major. So make sure that you're always making sure to not avoid that confrontation where it's important for you to fully represent the thing that means so much to you. Loneliness. Loneliness is common. And if you ever feel less than, remember that. Loneliness, specifically in entrepreneurship, is very common, and it doesn't make you any less of a high performer or business person. It's just a fact of life. Natalie here, she made a community, and not only is she fabulous about convening these women, but she's also finding ways to feel more connected to other humans about something that is very different and special, like having a business. A lot of the times, if you don't have any other business owners around, it can be hard for people to understand what you have to deal with on a regular basis. So finding that community of people, or finding your personal board of directors that you can talk to, and those moments where you need to be able to tell somebody a win that only somebody kind of like you would understand. Being active about finding those people is so important. Do not stay in your hole. Do not stay on your hamster wheel. You're not always going to avoid rejection, and loneliness can pop up a lot when you're dealing with a pattern of rejection, especially as you're learning your way through this. So make sure you're surrounding yourself with people, especially if the 5 closest people to you have no idea what you're going through. You're going to have to seek that out yourself. And you know what? You're going to be a comfort to those other people as well. So it's not all about you. You got to give, and you got to find that community, and you'll be better for it. Finally, just make sure you head over to the podcast player right now and search for the BossBabe podcast. Not only is this a can't miss show if you're thinking about business, but they also interviewed me. So you can keep track of when I pop in on there if you subscribe to their podcast. And you're also going to love their Instagram. Head over to bossbabe.inc, at bossbabe.inc on Instagram, and make sure you follow Natalie as well. We will link to everything over at our Instagram. And my question for you will be, where you can answer that, at Details Podcast on Instagram. What are your hesitations about entrepreneurship and going into business? Let's talk about it over there in the comments. Don't forget, the Secret Podcast is live now in Shine Squad with Natalie, and you're going to want to be in Shine Squad today to hear about the item that she loves that's less than $100, significantly less than $100, that changed her life. I already bought it. I'm so excited about it. Go check it out. That's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. Remember, subscribe for good vibes, kiss the ones you love, and go after the life you want. I'll see you back for the next episode next Tuesday. Cheers.